shirt, you got the memo, and dressed very fresh, very appropriately. I don't know who gave you inspiration for your fashion room, but it looks great. And I told Greg, sometimes every now and then can be the butt. See, that was the Lord already trying to tell you. I told Greg, I said, sometimes I know I pick on you, but the scripture's clear about not touching the Lord's anointed. So if you want God on your side for the sermon, you probably shouldn't make jokes about me, but we'll see what he does. Round of applause one more time, Mr. Greg Gressler.
Some people grow up and they want to be like Mike. I just want to be like John. I want to be like John Lash. John, I love you. Hey, before I get started, I want to thank a few people, just because for me to even be in South Florida right now, it took a lot of different people to jump on board and say, you know, I'm going to support that guy. So first, the Benjamins, Renew, Jacob, are you guys here? Yeah. You got great. They're here? No? Oh, well, I'll thank you. Benjamins, you guys are awesome, man. This family put me up for the last 8 months. It's allowed me to stay in their home. And it's just been amazing, man. I love your family, so I just want to thank you guys. You're making it possible for me to be here. Also, Zara and Cindy, where are you guys at? Zara, Cindy, and they laid the tracks down for where we're at right now. You know, this church wouldn't even exist if they didn't open up their home to have people come over, read scripture, worship together. So you guys laid the tracks for this church. Just want to acknowledge that. And thank you guys for just your amazing faithfulness. You guys are awesome. Yeah. And then finally, Pastor John. Yeah. All right. So we're going to be talking a little bit about faith. Everyone say faith. And I'm really excited to talk to you about that today. You know, I'll start it like this. Have you ever been sitting on your couch? It's around dinner time. You're watching your favorite show. Maybe it's Gilmore Girls. For me, it's Gilmore Girls. And you're watching your show. And some of you are judging me because I watch Gilmore Girls. Back up. Watching Gilmore Girls, and then all of a sudden, this commercial comes on. And it's a commercial for the Big Mac, right? McDonald's is flashing the Big Mac in front of my eyes, and it looks good, it's nice, it's fluffy, it's got a nice poppy seed bun, it looks something like this, right? And I'm like, man, that looks good. And there's always a guy with a deep voice in the background who's like, oh yeah, you know you want this triple patty with poppy seeds, steroids, onions, pickles, tomato. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Drive-thru's open, come right now. As soon as I saw that commercial, I was like, man, I gotta go. I gotta get me a Big Mac, because it looked good, right? I mean, look at that, it looks delicious. So I get up, I get out of my seat, I go to McDonald's. And this is a guilty pleasure of mine. I don't normally eat fast food, but when I saw this, I was just like, man, I got to eat this. So I go across the street, there's a McDonald's conveniently right across the street from me. I go through the drive-thru, I pay my $3.45. I get my Big Mac, and it's a nice brown box, and it's got a little weight to it. So I'm like, man, this is gonna be good. I don't even go home. I go straight into the parking lot. I just pull right into the spot, and I sit there, and it's almost like a spiritual moment for me. I'm like so hungry. I've seen the Big Mac, and it looks delicious, and I open up the box, and it looks like this. I don't even want to look at it. Have you ever experienced this? No, for real. Have you ever experienced this where you're looking at an advertisement and it's portraying this idea that it's going to look like this when you get it, but then it turns out to look like that? Right? There's no tomatoes on that. Look at that poppy seed. There's no, like, the poppy seeds are all bunched together. They're not evenly distributed. It's not the Big Mac they advertised. And that's frustrating. Okay? Americans, what do we have to deal with on a daily basis is beyond me. Yes, it's ridiculous. You know, I actually saw another advertisement for this kiddie pool. I thought this was pretty cool. Look at them, they look so happy. You know, that mom probably searched on the internet, was like, man, I just want a kiddie pool for my kid and all his friends. And she went online and she bought it, you know, for a pretty good price, like $22. And then all of a sudden she gets it in the mail and they set it up and it looks like this. See, John alluded to this last week, you know, our culture over-promises and under-delivers. But here's what I want us to think about today. I think our eyes are the chief culprit that cause us to believe in lies like this. Am I right? And you know, we're going through a series called Believe. Everyone say Believe. And we're going to be talking about faith. Last week, John talked about this idea that our faith is revealed by our feet, right? And this week, we're going to talk a little bit about how our eyes, right, will end up revealing our faith. And we should be walking by faith and not by sight, right? So we're going to start in Genesis 13. I'm going to allude to the story a little bit. We're going to go through we're first going to go through 9 verses that I'm just going to quickly explain, and then we're going to jump right into verse 10. So the way, the context of Genesis 13 is so weird, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but all you need to know is that Abraham gets kicked out of Egypt, right? He gets kicked out of Egypt, he's with his wife, and he's with Lot. And they're leaving Egypt, and they're heading into a land between Bethel and Ai. And just so you know, when they were in Egypt, they became very prosperous. Okay, they had a lot of herd, they had a lot of animals with them, and this, in those days, was considered as asset. So they had a lot of possessions with them between Lot and Abraham, and they find themselves between Bethel and Ai, and Abraham relinquishes his right to choose which part of the land that they're going to settle in, because they have so much herd, so much cattle, so much asset, that they know that the land is not going to be able to provide for the things that they have. And so there's the Jordan Valley, which is west, and then there's area towards Canaan, which is a little more east and south. And so Abraham says, Lot, you get the choice. And this is where we'll start. So can you stand to your feet? We're going to get ready to read Genesis 13, verse 10. And if you do not have your Bible, you have a Bible up here for your viewing pleasure. Let's go. And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt in the direction of Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Abraham settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were great and wicked sinners against the Lord. The Lord said to Abraham, and Lot had separated from him, lift up your eyes, look to the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, westward. For all the land that you see I will give to you, and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring also can be counted. I think that's the weirdest sentence ever. Arise, walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I will give it to you. And last verse, so Abraham moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of, I don't know how to pronounce that, which are Hebron, and there he built the altar. You may be seated. Lot chooses by sight, Abraham chooses by faith. Lot goes for security, Abraham chooses faith. Lot chooses self, Abraham chooses God. Lot had become prosperous and lost dependency. Abraham stayed barren in spirit, even though he had much. You know, as I'm reading this text, I'm realizing that humanity has a problem. Ever since the Garden of Eden, human beings have been led by their eyes instead of faith. Am I right? Come on, I don't hear you guys today. Some of y'all are sleeping in church. Human beings, ever since the garden, have been led by their eyes instead of their faith. And it's caused us to make decisions that could be good, but they're not God. You can make good decisions, but that does not mean that it's a God decision. See, it's happened to Adam and Eve, it's happened to Lot, and it's happened to David, and it's happened to Thomas, and it's happened to Peter, it's happened to the disciples, and I'm pretty sure it's happened to every single one of us in this room, where we've convinced ourselves that what our eyes are telling us is exactly what we should be doing, instead of what our faith is telling us. Look to somebody near you and say, your eyes? Your eyes have lied. Don't get lost in someone's eyes. Just look into their eyes and say, your eyes have lied. You know, a famous pastor, theologian, Tim Keller, one of my favorite authors, he said this in one of his books. He said, man, life is hard because the options are vast, and the opportunity to walk in any direction is a free will that God has granted to man. And at this point in time, I mean, you guys can relate to this. You make a lot of decisions on a daily basis. I mean, I'm looking at y'all. Y'all are a beautiful group of people. And I know you made some decisions to wear the clothes that you wore. You know what I'm saying? Like, this didn't just happen. Like, you made decisions to make sure that this looked good. I mean, guys, you go out and buy razors. You know, you go out and you make daily decisions, right? And the thing that I want to relate to us today is this idea that we are always making decisions. You know, a famous author named Peter Drucker, he's not a Christian. He's actually a secular author. He said this. He said that we are experiencing in our culture today something called decision fatigue, which basically means that the more choices people have, the more quality our decisions deteriorate. So the idea of it is that at this point in time, we're making so many decisions that it's countercultural to wait and make a decision based on faith. It's completely countercultural. And man, I just want to encourage us today, man. I feel like God is causing us to make a choice. He's calling us to make a choice, because the reality is you are going to make a choice with your life. You're either going to walk by faith or you're going to walk by sight. You're either going to trust God based on His promises, or you're just going to let what your eyes are telling you deceive you, and you're going to make a choice based on your own intuition, your own human strength. And just so you know, the decision you make, whether to walk by faith or walk by sight, man, the decision is the difference between a life of blessing and a life of curses. And what I want us to do today is we're going to look at the life of Lot. We're going to look at the life of Abraham. We're going to look at the distinctions and the way they pursued their decisions, and how that effect of those decisions ended up making someone lose everything that they had. Not just the things that they had themselves, but the things that belonged to other people. It caused them to live life of curses. And how someone else could make a choice based on faith, and how it could bless them and cause an entire lineage to live and have freedom in God. If you were ready to hear this word, can I just get like a come on? Come on, man. Like some of you here, some of you not. I'm gonna try to get you on board. So here's what I want to do. We're gonna look at Lot's life. So we're gonna look at Genesis 13:11. This is his decision. So Lot chose for himself the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east, and thus they separated from each other. See, Abraham, you got a promise from God, right? You got a promise from God. You're gonna get a land and your inheritance, and all the people from your lineage are gonna possess this land. And Abraham takes Lot out of Egypt with him. But what's crazy is Egypt is still inside of Lot. I'll say it again. Abraham took Lot out of Egypt, but Egypt is still inside of Lot. See, Lot had gained a lot of possession in Egypt, right? He's with Pharaoh, and he blessed him with a bunch of stuff. And so when he gets his stuff, he gets to a place where he's given the option to choose between land, and Lot makes a good business decision. I mean, if you read in the scriptures here, I mean, he's got a bunch of cattle that he wants to protect, and he looks at the land that's thriving, and he says, man, this land's going to provide. So what does he do? He chooses the land that's going to provide for his cattle. So, I mean, from a human standpoint, Lot's a wise guy. I mean, he's making a good business decision. And I don't want to blame Lot for that, but what I think we're supposed to look at when it comes to Lot's fall is where Lot went wrong is he doesn't inquire of God. He doesn't inquire of God, and I think it relates to us in a way that if we're going to just choose things without inquiring of God, there will be consequences, right? And just a disclaimer, I don't want to paint a picture of God in this way where like he's kind of like this little, this elementary school kid on the playground who like needs your attention. Like, come on, just ask me a question, or come on, spend some time with me. That's not the picture I'm trying to portray of God. What I want you to know about God and His character is that He knows when you actually depend on Him and you actually inquire of Him, you're going to be most satisfied because His plan for you is better than the plan you can create for yourself. And here is Lot's issue. He doesn't inquire of God. Let's follow the trail. Lot's not walking by faith. He's taking everything into his own hands. So angels come to get him. He offered his daughters up to an angry mob. His future son-in-laws wouldn't listen to him. His wife looks back later on and turns into a pillar of salt. His daughters got him intoxicated and they got impregnated by him. Awkward. His grandsons were the Ammonites and the Moabites. And these were the people, if you look forward in Genesis, these people were the enemies of God. The consequences of not walking by faith, catastrophic.
Wow, yeah.
Catastrophic. Galatians 6:8, and it says that if you are going to walk by the Spirit, man, you're going to reap of the Spirit. But if you're going to walk by the flesh, you're going to reap corruption. And I might be coming hard in today, but man, this truth, man, if I were to preach to you in a loving way, the best thing I could tell you is to get your eyes off of this world and get them onto Jesus. So listen, man, I felt like as I was writing this, I had this vision. It was so clear. It was a vision of a sheep behind a shepherd. And the sheep was looking to the shepherd, and the shepherd was leading the sheep And they're in a desert, and he peeks over the side shoulder of the shepherd, and he sees an oasis. And he assumes that the shepherd is just leading him there, so the sheep steps in front of the shepherd, and he starts walking towards the oasis. And all of a sudden, it dissipates. It disappears. And he's thirsty, and he's confused, and he's wondering why he's alone. I feel like some of you, man, if you're in here today and you've taken a step in front of the shepherd, let me encourage you today. There's always the option to get back and be led by the shepherd. Because the shepherd's point of view and his perspective is so much higher than ours. So much greater than ours. We don't need to lead ourselves to broken cisterns, to broken wells. He knows where he's going. And if we were to just trust him by faith, we'd be led to rivers of living water that would fill us anew. We are the people of God. Say that. We are the people of God. We are the people of God, church, and we will walk by faith and we will not walk by sight. You know, I remember Pastor John, man, he was so great. He called me usually every morning when he was discipling me back in Gainesville, go Gators. And he would always pray for me, Greg, I pray that your eyes would be open to new things. He'd always pray that. I don't know if you remember this, but he'd always say that to me. I remember sitting down next to Little Hall. Anybody know where Little Hall is on? Like, yeah, I bet my hands went up. What's up, Spring Breakers? So, I'm sitting next to Little Hall. I'm sitting down. And John prays this prayer for me. I get off my phone. My class starts in like 20 minutes. And I see this woman who's walking around with a cane. And it seems like she's blind. And I just felt this draw. I felt this pull. I felt the Holy Spirit telling me, Greg, go talk to this woman. I was like, man, it's kind of weird. She probably feels awkward, or I know I feel awkward. I've never talked to a blind person that I don't know before. You know, so I waited a minute, and she was just literally walking around in circles. It was really weird. It's like God was telling her to stay in that spot. And so I walk up to her, and I was like, excuse me, ma'am, and she kind of just turns her head, obviously doesn't make eye contact, it's just kind of like in my direction. I'm like, excuse me, do you think that people feel awkward approaching you and talking to you? And she smiles, she goes, that's a good question. Yeah, I think they do. But I've been blind since birth, and you know, when I was a younger kid, I felt very awkward. I felt very antisocial because I just felt like I could feel people looking at me, but I didn't know for sure if they were. And you know, and this lady's older, she's a professor at the university, and I mean, I just ended up talking to this lady. We were having a great conversation. And I finally get to the place where I'm like, okay, I gotta talk to her about Jesus, because that's originally why I was called earlier. So I was like, do you know Jesus? And she just lights up. I mean, like, this lady's entire demeanor changed. She was just like, well, yeah, I know Jesus. And she starts talking about her relationship with God, and she starts explaining the character of God and how she's just had her heart changed and her life changed by Jesus. And she's telling me this, and the whole time I'm like sitting here thinking I'm supposed to encourage her. And this blind woman is like flipped the script and is totally evangelizing me now. And I leave the conversation, and I'm just like, Lord, she's never even seen creation. She's never laid her eyes on the color blue. Like, she doesn't know what the sky looks like, guys. She doesn't know what the person made in the image of God looks like. And she knows that He created us. And she knows that creation is made by Him. Like, isn't that amazing? And like, I thought about it. I was like, what if a woman who's blind and never seen a day in her life sees more clearly than you and I? Eyes of faith. There are eyes of faith that God has given to us. And Francis Chan, who's an amazing pastor, quoted this in a sermon one time. He said, I believe there's another set of eyes that God gave us in order to see the things of heaven and allow us to live supernaturally. These eyes are spiritual, but the image they produce are so real and vivid that they've been given the names eyes of faith. These eyes are always revealing God, and they're always revealing His plan. See, Abraham had eyes of faith. And I love the experience that he has in Genesis 13. Let's look at Genesis 13, 14 through 18. The Lord said to Abraham after Lot had separated from him, lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, westward, for all the land that I will give to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as dust from the earth, so that one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring also can be counted. Arise and walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I'll give it to you. So Abraham moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of, I still can't pronounce it, are at Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. Abraham was instructed to lift his eyes. I love that song, Always. I lift my eyes up. My help comes from the Lord. He was called to envision the land that God was going to give him. And I think about how we're supposed to possess certain areas. Like there's things that we're supposed to have authority over, but maybe we don't have authority over those things because we are not lifting our eyes. Man, I feel like God's instructing us, take your eyes off of worldly possessions and get them on me. Get your eyes off of the relationship you want to be in and get them on me. Get your eyes off the unknown future and get them on me. Speaking in God's terms, get them on God. Get your eyes off of failed ministry endeavors and get them on me. Get your eyes off of what you don't have and get them on God, who you will always have. Get your eyes off of yourself and get them on God. Get your eyes on the faithful one and you will walk by faith. Man, church, the only way to walk by faith is to get your eyes on the faithful one. And Abraham's doing this. Abraham is experiencing this. Man, you should have seen me before I started following Jesus. I had no faith. I had no way to lift my eyes. And if there was one application I could ask you to walk away with today, man, it's to look up. Say, look up. Look up. Look up, church. It takes character to look up and walk by faith. Abraham just didn't wake up one day and find himself walking by faith. If you read Genesis 12, 13, 14, 15, this guy had some experiences where God was pushing him, trying him, and testing him. And man, his character was built through these experiences where he had to learn to lift his eyes and walk by faith. His character became strong because of his experiences to walk by faith. And I feel like some of us need to have some experiences. But right now, man, there's these things in pottery. There's things in pottery called fissures. They're little microscopic cracks in pottery that don't look bad or look detrimental to a pot that someone might form. But if you were to put pressure in the pot, if you were to put water inside of the pot, it'd break. It'd break because of this tiny little crack. If you want to put that picture up, that's what a fissure looks like. But if the thing I want to connect to it is that, man, if our character has cracks in it, Abraham had cracks in his character. If your character has cracks in it, when you have decisions to make, you're going to look anywhere but up. You're going to look anywhere but up. And we all have fissures. We all have cracks in our character. You know, Romans 3:23 says that we've all fallen short of the glory of God. So this isn't a church where, you know, the pastor's perfect and then his disciples just need to, you know, look at him as the only one that they can follow. I mean, we have Jesus, the chief shepherd of this church, who has no cracks in his character. Man, he was solid in his faith. You know, there's this, I'll end it here, you know, there's this story of a child who is left in his house when the house catches on fire and the entire family flees, but he has to flee to the roof. And he gets to the roof and his father is standing below watching his son, and his son's freaking out and he yells to his son, he says, "Son, jump." And his son can't see, he says, "Dad, I want to, but I can't see anything. There's fire and smoke and I can't see." He says, "Son, just trust me, just jump." He says, "Dad, I'm scared, okay? I can't see anything." And the dad points back to his son, he says, "Son, I can see you. I can see you, and that's all that matters." And man, I think the idea behind this is that, look, we have failed to keep our eyes on God. We've taken our eyes off of God in so many different ways. You've looked to the left, you've looked to the right. We all got Barbie doll syndrome, right? Where we can turn our head to the left, we can turn our head to the right. We don't have the ability to lift our eyes up, you know? Listen, if you can learn to lift your eyes up, man, you'll see that the entire time you were looking for him, he was already looking at you. Man, Hebrews 12, verses 1 and 2, this is one of my favorite verses. It says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses." You know that cloud of witnesses is? It's a bunch of people that we read about in the scriptures. It's Abraham. He's one of those witnesses that is walking by faith. It says, "Let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who the joy was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of God." See, what's crazy is, when Jesus was being tried and tempted, unlike us, he didn't falter. He didn't crack. His character was solid, and he lifted his eyes to the Father, knowing that even though the cross was something to be despised, his Father was going to remain faithful. How did Jesus remain faithful? He lifted his eyes to the faithful one. I don't know, man, maybe you've been following Jesus for a long time in here. There's areas of your life you have not yet submitted to God. Like you have not submitted, man, God, I'm just going to walk by faith in this area. Look, the altars are going to be open in just a minute. And as you are walking with Jesus, man, I want to encourage you, this is a great opportunity to say, Lord, I want to submit this relationship to you. I want to submit this ministry to you. I want to submit X, Y, Z to you. And I want to walk by faith in this area because I don't want to let my eyes lead me. I want to let you lead me. Does that sound good? And if you're new, if you have never given your life to Jesus, maybe you need to look up for the first time in your life. This would be your shot.